Christian Andersen before we go to China, where this story is set. And this story is set in China so long ago that at this time there was an emperor. And the emperor of China, he loved beautiful things, and he lived in a porcelain palace, which was so fragile that his visitors were afraid to breathe too hard because it might shatter. He surrounded his porcelain palace with a garden, which was filled with many different varieties of flowers. And the most beautiful flowers had little silver bells tied to them. So when you walked through the garden, they would ring, and you couldn't help but look at them. The garden was so big, even the gardener wasn't really sure how far it extended. But if you managed to walk all the way through it, you would come to a wood. And the wood was right next to the sea. And there were fishermen who worked at the sea, and every night they would go out and they would set their nets, and then they would wait, and they would hear a sound. And it was the sound of a nightingale singing. And it was the most beautiful sound they had ever heard. And the next day they would go about their business and forget the nightingale's song, but at night again they would hear it, and it was truly the most beautiful thing. Many visitors came to examine the palace and explore the gardens and see the woods, and all of them also heard the nightingale, and they all agreed that it was the most beautiful thing too. They went home and they wrote books about it, these travel guides to the palace and the gardens and the woods and the sea, but they always said, the nightingale is the most beautiful of all. The emperor got a hold of some of these books, and he was reading one of them one day and flipping through and nodding because his palace was incredibly beautiful, and his gardens were very beautiful, and the woods were quite nice, and the nightingale was the most beautiful of all. The emperor had never heard of the nightingale. He had a hard time believing there was such a thing in his empire that he had never heard of, and he was kind of angry. So he called the First Lord in Waiting to him. First Lord in Waiting, there's apparently a nightingale, which is the most beautiful thing in my empire, which I've had to learn about by reading in a book. Why haven't I heard of this nightingale? Your Majesty, I don't know. Well, I want to hear it. I want it to perform in my palace tonight. Go get it. Off the Lord in Waiting went. He had never heard of this nightingale either, but he thought he'd better find it. So he went up to the highest tower in the palace and asked everyone along the way, and none of them had ever heard the nightingale. He went all the way down to the lowest basement, and none of them had ever heard the nightingale. And he went back to the emperor and he said, Your Highness, I believe that this is a fiction created by the author of the book. No, this book was sent to me by the Emperor of Japan, and it must be true, and that nightingale will sing a command performance tonight in my dining hall. Yes, Your Majesty. And he went looking through the palace again. And again, he had a very hard time and couldn't find anybody who had heard of this nightingale until he came to the kitchen, and there was a little girl who worked there. I know the nightingale. Every night, I get to take scraps from the table home to my sick mother who lives by the sea. And then on my way back, I stop and rest, and I listen to the nightingale singing. And it's so beautiful, it makes me cry. It's just like if my mother were kissing me. I'll take you to her. Good, do that. So, the Lord in Waiting followed this little girl, and by this time he'd gathered quite a crowd of people who also wanted to know what was going on with the nightingale. So they wandered through the gardens, and they heard a emperor like me to sing again? Because she thought the emperor was right there with them. The lord-in-waiting fixed this problem right away. The emperor commands that you perform in his dining hall this evening. Well, my sound sounds best in the woods, but I'll go with you. And she flew back with them to the palace. When they got there, they found that the palace had been decorated in expectation of the Nightingale's arrival, and all of the porcelain was shining with the reflection of 1,000 lamps, and some of the flowers with the silver bells had been brought in, and in the center of the dining hall was a golden perch where the Nightingale was to stand and sing. She lit on it. She sang her song, and at the end of it, there were tears streaming down the emperor's face. That was so beautiful. Please allow me to give you gold and jewels and all the gifts of my empire. The tears of an emperor are gift enough for a singer. Well, you must sing for me every day. You will stay here, and you will sing for me. And very quickly, a cage was brought out and set down over the perch. The Nightingale couldn't do much about it, so she agreed to sing for him every day. And he gave her all of those gifts, even though she said she didn't want them, and she was very well fed and had a life that some would think was pretty nice. She was able to fly twice a day. But when she went out to fly, there were 12 ribbons tied to her feet, and at the other end of each ribbon was one of the servants of the emperor. Still, she sang beautifully for him, even though she lived in the cage and didn't get to fly very much. And she became very popular. Everyone heard about her. People started to name their children Nightingale, even though they couldn't sing. And life went on like this for a while until one day the emperor received a gift. And it was a box, and on the box it said, "The Nightingale." This must be a book about my wonderful bird. He opened it. And inside it was an artificial nightingale. And unlike the real nightingale, which was kind of drab and gray, this nightingale was encrusted with rubies. Its wings had emeralds. Its eyes were diamonds, and it had a little key on it. And when he turned it, it sang as well as the real nightingale, and it turned its head and flapped its wings and wiggled its tail. "This is most remarkable. We will have a duet." He set the artificial nightingale down next to the real nightingale and commanded them to sing. This didn't really go very well. The artificial nightingale was programmed to sing exclusively waltzes. That was all the little ears inside it could handle. And the real nightingale was more of an improvisational singer, and so it wasn't the prettiest sound. The artificial nightingale was very impressive, and so he had it sing some more without the real nightingale, and it sang the same song 33 times in a row without getting tired. At this point, the emperor decided it was time for the real nightingale to sing, and he turned to it to command it to sing, and it wasn't in the cage. Somehow, during all of the commotion over the artificial nightingale, it had escaped. "Well, this is much better," his music master told him. "You see, this nightingale keeps time, and this nightingale is always in key, and you always know what it's going to sing, and it's much more predictable and much better than that nightingale." Everyone agreed. The emperor agreed. "I banish that nightingale from my kingdom, and this nightingale shall have the place of honor." And he took it with him to his chamber and gave it a place of honor next to his bed on the left side where his heart was, and gave it all of the gifts that he had given to the real nightingale. The emperor wound that nightingale up day and night. It was always playing for him, till one night when he was falling asleep and he was about to drift off. Crunch. The nightingale wasn't singing anymore. He didn't know what to do. He called the court physician. The doctor gears are worn down and the pegs are practically gone. And I'll fix it, but you better not use it very often. So the emperor decided that he would only use it once a year. For the next 5 years, he only used that Nightingale once a year. And then a shadow fell over the land. The emperor grew very ill. He was so ill that they had appointed a successor already, and they laid down carpet in the porcelain palace so that when people walked by, they wouldn't disturb him while he was resting. But still, he kept that Nightingale by his bed. He lay in his bed one night. He started to feel a heaviness on his chest. Could hardly breathe. He opened his eyes, and Death himself was sitting on his chest, staring at him with hollow eyes, wearing his crown and holding his scepter in one hand and his banner in the other. And all around them, he saw faces, some smiling and happy and some twisted in pain. And these were the deeds that the emperor had done through his life, both good and evil, and they began to talk to him. Do you remember me? Do you recall what you did? Do you remember that one time? Do you remember? Remember me? Remember? 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 Do you remember me? Do you remember? Bird, please! Sing and make the voices stop! But there was no one there to wind it, and so the Nightingale couldn't sing. The voices kept chattering at him. He was sure he was about to die when all of a sudden he heard, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, ooh." He looked to the window, and on a spray of flowers just outside was the real Nightingale. Death looked to the window too. "Sing again. Will you give the emperor back his crown, and his banner, and his scepter?" "Yes, only please sing again." So the Nightingale sang 3 more songs, one for each item that Death gave back to the emperor. And at the end of those, Death had a sense of longing for his own home and his own garden, and so he flew out of the window in a cold mist. "Nightingale, you have saved my life. Yes, rest now, and I will sing you a lullaby." And she sang to him, and he did sleep. In the morning, he awoke, and she was still there, right beside him. "Nightingale, you must stay and sing for me every day, and I will give you all of the gifts I have, and I will throw this Nightingale to the ground and smash it into 1,000 pieces." He did his best. "Don't do that. But you will sing for me every day. You will live here." "No. No, I must be free. Only let me come to you when I will, and I'll sing to you of all of the things that happen in your kingdom. I'll sing to you of the fishermen by the sea and the children of the village. And this way you'll know everything that happens throughout the whole empire." "Yes, yes, we'll do that. Only you must never tell anyone that you have a little bird who tells you everything." "I won't.